What's on, ladies and gentlemen? My name's Ross, I like games, and today we need to look at another deck that's gone and won a Vault Tour. Yeah, I've decided I'm just going to profile all the Vault Tour winning decks on this channel because, well, they're good, and we can see what makes them tick, and then we can figure out how to find other decks that are good, and it just helps us analyze these decks. Plus, it's fun looking at winning decks. So let's have a look at a deck that won over in Origins, Screaming Simon of the Tower. Now, it was an adaptive final, and with adaptive finals, you always get the whole, well, one player won, but they might have been using the other person's deck, and it all gets a little bit awkward. But this is the deck that is credited with winning the Vault Tour. It is the deck that gets 8 power levels. At a Vault Tour, the winning deck gets 8 power levels, the second place deck gets 7. And oh look, it's another Shadows deck. Frankly, ladies and gentlemen, Shadows decks are great. In fact, there have been 8 Vault Tour winning decks so far. The other ones we profiled, I'll pop links in the description. Apologies, 7 of them. And of the 7 so far, there are 2 that didn't play Shadows. Yeah, we're 5 out of 7 so far. Having said that, 5 of them played Logos, and 5 of them played Dis. So it's not exactly like they're the only ones out there, ladies and gentlemen. But it still plays Shadows. Incidentally, it also plays Dis. Although, I'm going to start off in the Dis house right now, because the thing that jumps out to me as the most relevant, the most interesting, the most attention-grabbing thing in this deck, it's got our Ember Imp in it. Now, you might notice that Ember Imp is not in Age of Ascension. Yeah. Ember Imp, ladies and gentlemen, is a legacy card, which is to say a card from Call of the Archons put into Age of Ascension. This is just about one of the best legacy cards you could possibly imagine. It's phenomenal. It means your opponent can only play 2 cards during their turn. Now, it's a 2-power creature without elusive or any of that, but it's a phenomenal legacy card that we should all hope we can get. And while we're in this is a pretty disruptive deck. It's got Lash of Broken Dreams, which says that your keys cost +3 the following turn. That is to say, your opponent's keys. So that's going to be pretty good at stopping your opponent forging a key. We've got Telsmal here. When you reap, you choose a house, and your opponent does not get to use that as their active house next turn. So you get to demand they don't use a particular house. That's pretty good. And we got a bunch of stuff that can destroy a bunch of creatures. So Cull the Weak gives you an amber bonus and destroys the least powerful enemy creature. We've got Bloodshard Imp here. After a creature reaps its controller must sacrifice it, although to be fair, that is both you and your opponent. And Onyx Knight. Onyx Knight is a very fun one. Onyx Knight just destroys every creature with an odd power. Again, this is not some guaranteed always going to work superpower card. Sometimes it's going to do more harm than good. But sometimes it's going to do a lot of good. Oh yeah, and I mentioned the whole increase in the cost of forging keys. Should probably at this point mention Anguish. Anguish increases the cost of your opponent forging a key for each damage counter on it. So if it's got 5 damage, your opponent's keys cost 5 more. To be fair, that's not always going to work. To be blunt, there's going to be plenty of times your opponent can just KO it or not damage it. It's not as reliable as Lash of Broken Dreams, but using them together could go pretty well. And we got a pair of Gongoozle here, which can act as some really nice hand disruption. So it gives you an amber bonus, and you deal 3 damage to a creature, and either you destroy it or your opponent discards a random card from their hand. And sometimes here, what you'll want to do is deliberately go after a creature you don't destroy, assuming there isn't one that you desperately need to get rid of, like the aforementioned Ember Imp, just so that you can actually disrupt your opponent's hand quite nicely. And then the last couple of discards here, we've got an Exhume. Choose a creature in the discard pile, play it as if it was in your hand and in the active house. Yeah, that's pretty gosh darn good. I'll go along with that. And we've got a Yerk. Yerk, when you play it, you choose and discard a card from your hand. Please do not sleep on the Yerk Exhume combo. It's a great combo. Because what you do is you play Yerk, discard a creature from one of your other two houses, and then play Exhume to immediately play it. Yeah, it's a really, really fun combo here, ladies and gentlemen. It's cool. Now, we also have shadows here, and look, shadows steal. It's what they do. There's a whole bunch of stealing. Now, in Age of Ascension, we also do see a fair bit of cheeky damage, less so in this deck, but it is there. So we've got Nerve Blast here, steal an amber if you do. Deal 2 damage to one of your opponent's creatures, that's pretty nice. We've got a pair of Ronnie Wrist Clocks. When you play it, you steal an amber. And then, if your opponent's got 7 or more, you steal 2 instead. That's pretty good. I'm going to be honest with you, it's not the best stealing we've ever seen in Shadows, but this is slightly offset by a copy of Miasma, which makes your opponent skip their Forger key part of their turn. That's pretty nice. Now, in terms of the cheeky damage, we've got Life for a Life. Sacrifice one of your creatures to deal 6 damage to one of your opponents. And remember here, you've got Ronnie Wrist Clocks, who is most useful for its coming into play ability. Yeah, that's pretty good. Incidentally, we've also got Merkins here. I adore Merkins. Merkins lets you play the top card of your opponent's deck, or a random card in their archives, as if it were yours. So you can play one of their creatures, one of their action cards, etc. That's pretty gosh darn good. We've got Sucker Punch, an alpha card that deals 2 damage to an enemy creature while giving you an amber. But if you can destroy them, you get to archive it. So it's there, ready at the beginning of your next turn. We've got Lethal Distraction, gives you an amber bonus. And for the remainder of the turn, whenever a creature takes damage, it takes an additional 2 amber. So you've got to denote one particular creature, and every time it would take a damage, it actually takes 3. Yeah, that's kind of nice, ladies and gentlemen. That's kind of nice. Incidentally, it's whenever it takes damage, so it is each instance of damage, not each damage that it would take. So if you play Life for a Life, it takes 8. It doesn't take 18. That would be absurd. And although it's not cheeky damage per se, we've also got an oubliette here that lets you purge a creature with power 3 or lower. Yeah, it goes quite nicely with all of the disruption cards we've got. Honestly, although you're not playing anything like Unlocked Gateway here, we've got a lot of ways to deal with creatures. It's quite nice. And then to finish off here, we've got Furtive Investors. Gives you an amber bonus, and then if your opponent has got more amber than you gain 1 for each key they forged. Best case scenario, 3 amber, but that means they forged 2 keys and have more amber than you. Might be time to worry a little bit at that point. We got Hidden Stash, which gives you an amber bonus and lets you archive a card. Really good for saving something like Ronnie Wrist Clocks for when it's going to do the most damage. And then there's 1 copy of Redlock in here. At the end of your turn, if you did not play any creatures, you get to gain an amber. There will be turns you don't play creatures, and then you get extra stuff. That's pretty sweet, ladies and gentlemen. That's pretty sweet. And then we've got Brobnar. And look, I'm not a huge Brobnar fan. I'm just not. I'm not loving Brobnar. What I am loving, however, is that there's quite a lot of ways to get rid of creatures in Brobnar, and I've already shown you a bunch of ways to get rid of them with Dis and Shadows. So we've got 1-2 punch, stun an enemy creature, but if it was already stunned, destroy it instead. Given that you've got 3 of these, you're going to destroy a few creatures. Even if all you're doing is gaining an amber and stunning a creature, that ain't too bad, ladies and gentlemen. And you don't really have any other stunning options. So unless your opponent's stunning themselves, you'll largely be using this for stunning. We've got Bingle Bang Bang. Before you even get to the fight, you deal 5 damage to each neighbour of the creature you're fighting. There's 2 of those. Coward's End destroys each undamaged creature, though you do have to gain 3 chains to do so. And while we're talking about board wiping cards, how about Champion's Challenge, which destroys all but your most powerful creature and your opponent's most powerful creature, and then you have a little bit of a fight. And here's the thing, I was saying that in the other houses we didn't have any proper board wipes, but Coward's End is a proper board wipe, and Champion's Challenge is a proper board wipe. But I've shown you so many options. Against this deck, it is going to be extremely difficult to actually keep your creatures on the field. It's just not really going to work. But we're not actually done. We've got Tremor here, stuns a creature and each of its neighbours. So actually take back what I said about 1-2 punch earlier. Sorry, I forgot about the Tremor. If you can play Tremor, stun 3 creatures, and then play your 1-2 punches, you're actually destroying creatures. That's pretty sweet. We've got Flamethrower, an artifact, and every turn you get to deal 1 damage to a creature with 1 damage splash. That is to say 1 damage to each of its neighbours. I mean, come on, ladies and gentlemen. That's ridiculous. There is so much you can do here to get rid of your opponent's creatures. And it's in all 3 houses. All 3 of your houses have ways to do significant cheeky damage or get rid of a significant number of creatures. It's ridiculous. Every deck, every good deck at least, generally seems to have something it does better than other people. This gets rid of stuff really nicely. Now there are a couple of other cards we need to mention quickly from Brobnar. We've got Foozle. When you reap, if an enemy creature has been destroyed this turn, you gain another amber. Yeah, you've got so many ways to get rid of them. You'll often be getting double reaping with Foozle. That's going to help you very nicely. There is Little Rapskull. Creatures must fight when used, if able, and it does not say friendly creatures, ladies and gentlemen. Your opponent has to fight as well. That's going to be fun. And then we've got the Flex. Choose a ready friendly Brobnar creature, exhaust it, and gain amber equal to half of its power, rounded down. Now I'm going to be honest with you, you've not got the best options here. Like, far and away your best option is Foozle, which will get you 2 amber, which is the same you get when you reap if you've destroyed a creature. Bingle Bang Bang gets you 1. Little Rapskull gets you 1. I like the Flex as a card. In this deck, it's largely useless. Sorry about that. But this is a deck that's going to wipe your opponent's field. This is a deck that is going to get rid of your opponent's creatures really nicely and just disrupt their entire strategy. I don't think it's any surprise that this won a Vault Tour. This is a good deck. But I'd like to know what you think about it. So please do let me know in the comment section. Go nuts, be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, and follow me on Twitter at the Wossy, where we talk about games like Keyforge and a whole bunch of others. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time. Thank you very much for watching. My name is Ross, and you've been watching Wossy Plays.